Hey Gupta, and today we're going to discuss about task 4.2c. So here you can see the necessaries libraries you need to have for doing this code, and then we have a namespace named as robot controller API controller. Then we have a class named as maps controller, a class which is defined here, which is inherited from the controller base, which is like the base class. And then private read only IMAP data access. So we have created a constructor here, which is IMAP data access, the name of maps repo. So you can see here the endpoint, and you can see that the get maps handles all the get request. As we have learned from the previous task, it basically retrieves all the maps here, the get maps, the HTTP get request. Then we have this get square map. It basically retrieves the maps where the number of rows is equal to the number of columns. Here you can see. Now we have get map by ID. So we basically insert an ID and it retrieves the data by the specific ID, like specific map by its ID. Next we have add map, basically to post a new map, to the collection. And then we have the update, which basically update an existing file to the mapped by its ID. And then we have delete, and then we have the check coordinate, check if the coordinate is on the specific map. So we have used the HTTP get maps by the coordinates, and then ID, and then update, and so on to the other. So this basically returns the various types of iAction result. For example, here it results okay, and then here it results okay, like not found, bad request. Here you can see bad request, conflict, depending on the result of the operation. And the input parameters are validated in several places. For example, you can see in the add method. So you can see in the add map, it checks if the map object is null or the map size. Here, map size, like column and rows, falls between a valid range. And then the data access, the controller interacts with the map data, which is the underscore maps repo, to perform CRUD, which is create, read, update, delete operation on map. So overall, this controller provides like the API for managing maps, including create, read, update, and delete operations for the inputs. Then coming to the robot command, here you can see we have written the names and dependencies. Yeah, I hope it's visible. Yeah. So it basically includes for the accessing data related to the robot commands. Yeah. Next we have a public class defined, which is robot commands controller, which is inherited from the controller base. So you can see we have created a constructor here of name iRobot command data access. So here we have seen get all robot commands, get robot commands, get move commands only. So it basically retrieves all the move commands here. Then we have robot commands by ID. It basically retrieves a specific robot command by its ID. Then we have add robot command async. It adds a new robot command like asynchronously. It returns bad requests or conflicts, which are the HTTP requests. And then we have the update command here, update robot command. It updates an existing robot command. Then we have the delete command. It deletes the robot command by its ID. So we have done, I had to specify the HTTP method and all done here. So now the action result, you have see the action method of various type. I action result is basically like the bad request, conflict, okay, and then not found. Also it depending on the result of the operation. Next, we have here, so input parameters are validated in some place. So for example, this add robot command async, it check if the new command is null here, or if it's with the same name that already exists, this here. And then the controller interacts with the here robot command data repository, which is the underscore robot command repository, which is the CRUD operation of robot command. So overall, this controller provide like the managing robot commands, including the CRUD operations. This is it for this code. I hope you are understanding it for now. Next, let's deal with the next file. So here you can see we have the necessaries library, import the npg's SQL namespace for PostgreSQL database connectivity. Here you can see our namespace is robot controller API persistence, and we have defined a public class named as robot command ADO, which is inherited from the robot command data access. So it is basically the interface indicating that it provides method for accessing robot command data. So it resides within this namespace only, robot command API persistence. So here you can see this is the constant connection, holds the connection string used to connect to the PostgreSQL. And then we have all the commands, get robot commands, retrieve all robot commands from the data. And then we have insert robot command, inserts new robot command into database. Next we have update robot command, update the robot command by its ID in the database. And then we have delete robot command, it basically deletes a robot command from its database. So database operations are performed using npg SQL connection, so performed by command and data reader. Here you can see which is the connection here. And then so you might be wondering, so it basically opens a connection to the PostgreSQL statement. And then we have parameterized queries are used to prevent SQL injection attacks, and we handle values securely. And then we have error handling in minimal this code occur during this. And then we have insert, delete, so it will show null is returned as placeholder for the actual return value. So overall, this class serves as a data access layer for robot command entities in PostgreSQL database. It provides method to perform CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. That's what happening in almost every here. Yeah, that it is. Now coming to the map data access. So I would first, I was looking for this one thing I've written, I don't know. So these are the necessaries libraries here. And then this class basically implements the IMAP data access, which is responsible for accessing map data in the database and indicating that it provides method for accessing map data. And it is in the namespace robot controller API persistence. So the connection string I've already told you about, but I'm going to repeat it. This basically holds the connection string to connect to the PostgreSQL database. Then you can see we have created methods here which get maps, basically retrieves all the maps from the database. Then we have insert map, it insert a new map into database, update map, update an existing map in the database, and delete map, deletes a map from the database. So you can see this is for the maps here. I'm sure you guys know about this. And then you can see the connection open. So it opens a connection to the PostgreSQL, using statements ensure that database connections are properly closed after use. SQL commands like CRUD operation in the database. And then we have return value. For example, in the insert map and the update map, the method object is returned after insertion and update. But in the delete map, the null is returned. Here you can see the null is returned, and this is returned after the insertion and update. So null is returned as there is no map to return after deletion, which makes sense. And the table creation is a different thing. So this basically creates a table named map with the columns, ID, name, description column. So you can create a table in the SQL script, like create table if not exist map, where you are including the description, ID, name. So the ID column is defined as a serial type of auto incrementing primary keys. So you can execute this script in the PostgreSQL database management tool. Can be using pgadmin obviously to create the necessary table. We have created it, and once the table is created, we can use this code to interact with the map data. Now coming to the map, this file. So I'm gonna explain you this file like really quick and in brief. So the necessary libraries here, and the namespace is robot controller, this defined by public class, which is map repository inherited from the IMAP data access and IMAP repository. So map repository class implement both this IMAP data access and this interface iRepository interface. So it indicates that it provides method for accessing map data, and serves like a generic repository for database operation. And then you can see fields and properties, which is _repo. So the private property here is used to access repository method internally. It is initialized with the current instance of the map repository. Yeah. And then you can see we have all the methods here: get map, insert map, which basically retrieve all maps from the database, insert all maps from the database, and then we have update and delete, updating an existing map in the database and deletes and maps from this. Next, so the database query is here. Next we have _repo.execute reader. So this method, which basically execute SQL queries and retrieves result as object of type T. And then we have all the return value of it was done, inserted, updated, or deleted map respectively in this all methods. So it basically assumes that the existence of the repo interface iRepo and utilize its method for executing SQL queries. Coming to the robot command repository. So it is also the same. We have defined a public class named robot command repository, which is inherited from this. So this implements both iRobot command and map data iRepository interfaces. So it allows it to handle robot command specific operation, which also providing generic database functionality through the repository pattern. And then we have fields here like the previous one only. This basically provide access to repository method internally and initialize with the current instance of the robot command repository. Then we have created method, which is insert, get robot commands, insert robot command, update robot command, and delete robot command. So I'm sure I have written in the comments what it basically is. And _execute reader method basically executes SQL queries. I have mentioned it all, and this code basically like utilizes this method for executing SQL queries. The implementation of the interface is not provided here, but methods functionality is the generic database operation for the executing SQL queries and handling connections. Thank you. I think I've explained all the mandatory files, and all the other are like previous. And not to mention, we have made the necessary changes in these files only. Thank you. I hope you guys understood the code very properly, although the last was very brief introduction, but it all kind of makes sense together. So you guys, I'm sure you guys learned a lot. Thank you.